Have you ever imagined what it would be like to weather life's most violent storms? Rejection, failure, criticism, loss, and remain unshaken, not due to a lack of feelings, but because of an inner strength so solid that nothing external could truly hurt you. This isn't a fantasy. It's an achievable state of the human mind, a way of being that was mapped more than 2,000 years ago and refined by modern science. It's what I call emotional immunity, the ability to face any situation without being dominated by destructive emotional reactions. Think about the last time you were deeply shaken, perhaps a criticism that made you doubt yourself for days, a relationship that ended and it seemed your world would end with it, a professional rejection that made you question your entire worth, or perhaps it's something happening now, that constant anxiety, fear of judgment, the feeling of never being enough. What if I told you there exists a method tested over millennia for freeing yourself from these invisible chains? A system that not only alleviates emotional suffering, but fundamentally transforms your relationship with reality. Today, we'll explore the extraordinary intersection between the wisdom of a Roman slave who became one of history's greatest philosophers, Epictetus, and the pioneering work of modern psychologist Albert Ellis, creator of rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT. Separated by nearly 2,000 years, these two thinkers arrived at the same revolutionary conclusion. It's not external events that cause our emotional suffering, but rather the interpretations we make of these events. Epictetus, in his manual Enchiridion, wrote what might be the most liberating phrase in the history of philosophy. It's not things themselves that disturb us, but rather the opinions we have about these things. Almost 2 millennia later, Albert Ellis, in his book Reason and Emotion in Psychotherapy, expressed the same principle in modern terms. People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of things. This is the cornerstone of emotional resilience, the central principle that, once truly understood and applied, completely transforms your life experience. But understand this isn't superficial positive thinking. I'm not talking about empty affirmations or denying reality. I'm talking about something much deeper and more powerful. A fundamental restructuring of how you process reality. Let's examine why this is so revolutionary. Recent research from Stanford University showed that, on average, we experience about 20,000 individual moments of consciousness per day. Of these, approximately 70% are colored by automatic negative thoughts, judgments, worries, internal criticisms that we barely notice. These automatic thoughts aren't harmless. They trigger real emotional and physiological responses. When you think, "I'm a failure," after a mistake, your body releases cortisol, your nervous system enters fight or flight mode, your cognitive ability diminishes, and you become physically less capable of responding effectively. The solution isn't just to think positive. The solution is to understand the exact mechanism by which your thoughts create your emotional reality, and then to interrupt this mechanism at its source. Epictetus taught that everything in the world can be divided into two categories: what is under our control and what isn't. In his words, some things are under our control, while others are not. Under our control are opinion, choice, desire, aversion, and, in summary, everything that is our own action. Not under our control are the body, property, reputation, positions, and, in a word, everything that is not our own action. This discernment seems simple, but it's profound. Suffering arises when we confuse these categories, when we try to control the uncontrollable, or when we fail to exercise control where we can. Albert Ellis systematized this understanding in what he called the ABC model. A. Activating event, what happens. B. Beliefs, what you think about what happens. C. Emotional consequence, how you feel as a result. Most people believe that A, the event, directly causes C, the emotion. She rejected me, so I'm devastated. My boss criticized me, so I'm furious. I made a mistake, so I feel like a failure. But Ellis demonstrated through thousands of clinical cases that B, the belief, is always the true causal link. It's not rejection that causes devastation. It's the belief that I needed her approval to have value. It's not criticism that causes anger. It's the belief that I should never be unfairly criticized. It's not the mistake that causes the feeling of failure. It's the belief that any mistake proves I'm incompetent. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology demonstrated that people who practiced cognitive restructuring based on the ABC model experienced a 63% reduction in anxiety symptoms compared to the control group. The same study showed that these changes persisted for at least 18 months after the initial training. The numbers don't lie. This method works, but to apply it effectively, you need to understand what Ellis identified as the central irrational beliefs that generate emotional suffering. He called them the three absolutist demands, rigid and non-negotiable beliefs that we impose on reality. 1. I must be completely competent, adequate and successful, otherwise I am worthless. 2. Others must treat me fairly, considerately and lovingly, otherwise they are terrible. 3. The conditions under which I live must be easy and comfortable, otherwise life is unbearable. Note the absolute language: must, have to, always, never. This is the language of internal tyranny. It's the language that creates unnecessary suffering. Epictetus addressed these same absolutist demands 2,000 years ago. He taught his students, remember, it is not he who insults or strikes you who offends you, but your opinion that you are being offended. Therefore, when someone provokes you, know that it is your own opinion that provoked you. Now allow me to be brutally honest. Most people will never apply these ideas. They'll say, that makes sense, perhaps even comment on this video with enthusiasm, and then continue exactly as before, reacting automatically, blaming external circumstances for their emotional state, and remaining victims of their own interpretations. Why? Because true transformation requires more than intellectual agreement. It requires consistent practice. It requires a commitment to observe your mind in action and interrupt automatic thought patterns. It requires the courage to question fundamental beliefs about yourself, others, and the world. In other words, it requires work. Internal, consistent, and sometimes uncomfortable work. But for those willing to do this work, the results are nothing short of transformative. As Ellis observed in How to Live with a Neurotic, the best attitude to form is that of raising questions and doubts against your own most firmly held ideas about yourself and the world. Let's make this practical. Here's the Epictetus-Ellis Method in action. 5 concrete steps to develop emotional immunity. Step 1. Identify the trigger and the reaction. When you feel a disturbing emotion, anger, anxiety, sadness, guilt, stop and identify exactly what happened, the external trigger, and how you're feeling, the internal reaction. Be specific. Don't just say, I'm angry. Identify the exact trigger. My partner didn't respond to my message for hours, and I'm angry. This recognition creates a crucial pause between stimulus and response, the space where emotional freedom becomes possible. Step 2. Locate the underlying belief. Ask yourself, what thought or belief is generating this emotion? Typically, it's something that isn't being explicitly stated, but is implicit in your reaction. In our example, he/she should respond immediately. Not responding means lack of respect, interest. If he/she really cared about me, they would never leave me waiting. Note the key words here: should, never, always. These are red flags signaling irrational beliefs. Epictetus would say, you're placing your well-being in the hands of something you cannot control, another person's behavior. Step 3. Question the belief. This is the crucial step. You need to actively challenge the belief that's causing your suffering. Ellis recommended asking 3 specific questions. 1. Where's the evidence that this belief is true? Not your emotions or intuitions, but concrete evidence. 2. Is this belief logical or rational? Does it make sense when examined objectively? 3. Is this belief helpful? Does it help me achieve my goals, or just create suffering? Applying to our example, where's the evidence that someone must respond immediately? Is it logical to expect another person to be constantly available? Is this belief helping me have a better relationship? Ellis observed that, when rigorously questioned, most beliefs that cause emotional suffering don't pass this triple test. They aren't supported by evidence, they aren't logical, and they aren't helpful. Step 4. Develop a rational alternative. Now that you've identified and questioned the problematic belief, It's time to replace it with a more rational and useful alternative. The key is to replace demands with preferences, absolutes with probabilities, catastrophizing with perspective. In our example, a rational alternative would be, I would prefer that he/she respond soon, but there's no universal rule requiring this. There are many possible reasons for the delay that have nothing to do with lack of interest. Even if it's uncomfortable to wait, I can tolerate this discomfort without being carried away by it. Epictetus would agree, don't seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do happen, and you will have serenity. Step 5. Practice the new belief. Real transformation doesn't happen instantly. Old beliefs have deep neural pathways in your brain. You need to strengthen the new pathways through consistent practice. Ellis recommended specific homework exercises for his patients. Writing the new belief several times a day, creating visual reminders in strategic places, practicing visualizations, where you respond to trigger situations, with the new belief deliberately exposing yourself to low-intensity trigger situations, to practice different responses. A University of Pennsylvania study showed that patients who practiced cognitive restructuring exercises for at least 15 minutes daily had a 71% higher recovery rate than those who merely understood the concepts intellectually. In his discourses, Epictetus similarly emphasized the importance of practice. These things are not to be just read by chance. No, we must exercise them day and night, write them, read them, talk about them, having them at hand. Now, let me show you how this method applies to 3 common situations that emotionally shake most people. Situation 1. Personal or professional rejection. Typical reaction: devastation, shame, feeling not good enough. Underlying belief: I must be accepted by everyone in all important situations. A rejection means I am inadequate as a person. Questioning: where's the evidence that someone must be accepted by everyone? Is it logically possible to please everyone, considering the diversity of human preferences? Does this belief of 100% approval or failure help me grow and try again? Rational alternative: I prefer to be accepted, but rejection is a normal part of life. It often reflects a mismatch of fit, not personal inadequacy. I can learn from the experience and move forward. Situation 2. Criticism or negative feedback. Typical reaction: defensive anger, anxiety, intensified self-criticism. Underlying belief: I should never make mistakes or be criticized. Criticism means I'm incompetent. Questioning: what's the evidence that anyone can live without ever being criticized? Is it logically possible to never make mistakes while learning and growing? Does this belief help me receive useful feedback and improve? Rational alternative: I prefer to do things well, but I'm human and make mistakes like everyone. Criticism can be valuable for my growth, even when uncomfortable. My worth doesn't depend on constant perfection. Situation 3. Disappointment or loss. Typical reaction: despair, feeling that I'll never get over this. Underlying belief: things must happen as I want. When I lose something important, it's an unbearable catastrophe. Questioning: where's the evidence that life must follow my expectations? Is it logically reasonable to expect control over all circumstances? Does this catastrophe belief help me adapt and find new paths? Rational alternative: I prefer things to go as planned, but I don't have control over everything in life. I can feel sadness without labeling the situation as unbearable. I've faced challenges before and can build resilience through this experience too. Albert Ellis noted in Taming Your Wild Mind that human happiness is not achieved through the satisfaction of all desires, but through accepting the inevitable and developing flexible preferences instead of rigid demands. This is true emotional freedom, not the absence of problems, but the ability to respond to them without being dominated. And remember Epictetus's immortal words: it's not external events that disturb us, but the use we make of them. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can always control how you respond. It's in this space, between stimulus and response, that your freedom resides. Let's summarize the fundamental principles we've discussed. 1. The separation between what is and what isn't under your control is essential for peace of mind. 2. Your thoughts, not external events, determine your emotions. 3. Irrational beliefs follow identifiable patterns that can be challenged and modified. 4. Replacing demands with preferences is the key to psychological flexibility. 5. Consistent practice, not just intellectual understanding, is necessary for transformation. 6. True emotional strength comes from accepting reality as it is, not as you think it should be. 7. Your response to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves, determines your quality of life. Developing emotional immunity doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. On the contrary, it means freeing yourself from destructive emotional reactions to be able to experience authentic and appropriate emotions, genuine joy without manic euphoria, healthy sadness without despair, productive concern without paralyzing anxiety. As Ellis wrote in A New Guide to Rational Living, unconditional acceptance of yourself, others, and the world is the path to emotional health and happiness. This is the promise of the Epictetus-Ellis Method, not a life without challenges, but a mind that remains serene even in the most violent storms. A mind that you control rather than being controlled by it. Now I ask you, what will you do with this wisdom? Will it be just another interesting idea you heard and will soon forget? Or will it be the beginning of a daily practice that can literally transform your life experience? The choice, as always, is yours. In our next video, The Virtue of Selfishness, Nietzsche and Rand's Warning, will explore the controversial but powerful idea that true altruism begins with healthy self-love. We'll discover how Nietzsche and Ayn Rand, two frequently misunderstood thinkers, offer crucial insights about the importance of prioritizing your own development, not out of destructive selfishness, but as a foundation for an authentic and impactful life. If this video resonated with you, share in the comments a limiting belief you've identified in your life and how you intend to transform it using the method we discussed today. Your journey may inspire others to begin their own. Until our next meeting.